Hello, good morning. So right now we're going to learn about language and the part of the reading. So in this occasion, we're going to read about quiet sounds. Quiet means silence, right? Silence, you know very well that word. Sounds. Sounds, if you can understand this, sound it's the arena, all right? Arena. Let's going to figure out what does this title means in the story, because if you can see pretty well, this is like a ice cream shop, right? And here you can find souvenirs. Actually, it stands the fossil shop. You know, when you are going to the beach, you find some shells, maybe some skulls for some sea animal. I don't know, something like that, right? So in here we can see ice cream shop, and here a souvenir shop. Souvenir significan recuerdos, okay? And we're going to read this part first. Connecting, setting, and plot. What is setting and plot? Well, connecting, the fact of connecting, right? To connect something to another thing. Setting means the background, the places the story take place, okay? And the plot is what the story is talking about. So right now, let's going to see a story's setting. It's when and where it takes place, okay? When and where. When is the time, where is the place. It takes place. A story can have more than one setting. That's true. For example, do you remember that you have watched this movie Frozen? Well, what was the setting of that movie? The first setting it was in the castle. You remember these three little girls? They were living in the castle. But what happened next? The setting turns to a cold mountain, right? So the setting of a story can change, or maybe sometimes, but pretty sometimes, can be only in one place. All right. So the plot is the events that happened in the story. So it's what the story is talking about. All right. What is the story about? So often the setting affects the plot. What is that? That's mean that in a while the plot is going by, maybe it requires to change the setting. For example, in the story of Frozen, do you remember? They start the plot living very peacefully. They're living in a castle. The setting was a castle. The plot was that they are living good until the thing that happens to Elsa, that she throw a spell to Anna, right? The setting changed everything on that. And what happened next? Well, Anna and Elsa grew up, and then Anna wants to get married with some guy that she met the first time, but Elsa didn't want it to. And they make an argue in front of the people when it was the special day for Elsa. But what happened? Elsa then ran away through the mountain, right? So the setting changed because the plot was different. That's what this part is about. Events happened that couldn't take place anywhere else. So this is what I told you before. Sometimes the plot only can be in one place. All right. So what are you going to do? So right now we're going to read the story. We're going to read carefully, all right? And then we have to answer some questions at the end of the story.
Track 40.
Quiet Sands. Every summer, Poppy Grimaldi went on vacation with her mom and dad to a small seaside town called Quiet Sands. There were only 2 shops there, Gino's ice cream shop, and Stone's, which sold fossils. Poppy liked the ice cream shop, but she loved Stone's. It was full of amazing fossils in different shapes, sizes, and colors. Poppy's favorite fossils were the beautiful amber ones, with tiny creatures inside them. Every summer, she asked her parents to buy her one, but the answer was always the same. What do you want an old lump of tree resin for? It'll just sit on a shelf and get dusty.
Okay, now in this part, what it's telling you, every summer, this girl, she's called Poppy Grimaldi, went to this part of the country, of the town, that it's the name of of Quiet Sands, okay? The name of this place is Quiet Sands. What happened in this place? In this place, there are only two stores over here, only two shops actually. One of an ice cream and the other one that sells standard, it's a fossil shop, I mean, like a souvenir, all right? Every summer they went to this, and every summer Poppy wants to buy a fossil, but their parents say to her that what she wants a lump of tree resin for, that it maybe just sit on the shelf and get dusty. Okay, listen, lump of tree resin means un pedazo de resina de árbol. That's mean this part. Sit on the shelf significa que va a estar en un estante. Get dusty, o sea que se va a empolvar. All right? So let's continue listening.
Mr. Stones was a paleontologist. He knew the story behind every fossil in his shop. And every summer, he had new fossils to tell Poppy about. One day, as he was telling her about the latest fossil, she interrupted him. "Do you think I could ever find a fossil?" "Of course. Anyone can find fossils. Why don't you try Fossil Cove?" "I've been there lots of times. I never find anything," said Poppy. "Maybe you should dig deeper and nearer the water," Mr. Stones replied.
Okay, in this part, what it's saying, that the owner of the shop actually was a paleontologist. And when Poppy always came to this place, they talk a lot about the fossils, all right? But one day, she was very interested in something. She was very interested to know if she can be a fossil hunter. And she wants to find a fossil. So she asked to the paleontologist if she can do it. And of course he said to her, yeah, that you can do it. You can find fossils everywhere, okay? But she was worried because she never find anything. So he said to her that she maybe have to go to another place that is called Fossil Cave. And she said that she'd been there before, but she couldn't find anything. Maybe you should dig deeper. Dig deeper significa excavar más profundo. And neither the water. Near the water means cerca del mar. Okay, if you understand this, maybe some of the fossils can be near of the water, and actually, you have to dig deeper. All right. So let's continue listening.
The next day was Poppy's last day in Quiet Sands, so she got up bright and early. She persuaded her parents to set up their beach chairs in Fossil Cove. Her parents only wanted to lie in the sun, as usual, so Poppy wandered off with her bucket and spade. She'd explored the rocks and caves there before, but this time she climbed over a cluster of rocks near the water's edge. She chose a spot and started to dig. After about 2 hours, there was sand everywhere and a very large hole. Suddenly, her spade hit something hard, and she saw a spiky piece of stone sticking out of the sand. She couldn't figure out what it was, so she ran back to ask her parents for help. "Sorry, Poppy, we're busy," said her dad, not looking up from his newspaper. So Poppy ran all the way back to the fossil shop to find Mr. Stones. When she arrived, Mr. Stones was helping a customer. Poppy waited patiently, but the moment the customer left, she blurted, "Quick! I've found something in the sand." "It's probably just an old piece of driftwood," said Mr. Stones, smiling. No, I'm sure it's a fossil. It's enormous, and it has spikes," Poppy told him excitedly. "Close the shop and come and see. Bring your special equipment." They ran quickly back to Fossil Cove. Mr. Stones stopped and looked down into the hole. He couldn't believe his eyes. "Pass me my special brush, Poppy."
Okay, in this part, what happened in this? So she went to the beach with her parents, but she was very curious and she wants to find a fossil. Actually, she was pretty bad to find a fossil. What happened? She has her bucket and a spade, and she was pretty about to find something. She was very decided about it. And while she was looking for something, their parents were lying in the sand, just taking the sun. Then she climbed up for the rocks, and then she started to dig with her spade, and she found something. This one was enormous, and she was very surprised. So she asked help for her parents, but they were busy. Honestly, I'm not agree with the behavior of her dad. So what happened next? Since her parents didn't pay her attention, she went to the fossil shop, but she looks that the paleontologist, he was busy. So she waited patiently until he uh, say bye to the customer that wasn't there. When he ended with this person, she said to her that she had found something in the sand. He was like, maybe it was a drift, an old piece of driftwood, sorry. So she said, no, it's a really enormous, it's a really fossil, and it's enormous and it has spikes. So she persuaded him to bring her his tools, and they went to the beach. So when they were there, he looks carefully that, and he was very surprised, and he said, "Pass me my special brush. This is a brush. Look, this is a brush." Remember the tools that we talk about, right, that the paleontologist used? Hold on.
Mr. Stones brushed away the sand very carefully until he could see the whole piece of stone. It looked like a huge snake that was sleeping, coiled like a spring. "Poppy, this is incredible," he said. "This is a very rare ammonite. It must be at least 150 million years old. When dinosaurs were walking on the land, sea creatures like ammonites were swimming in the oceans here." Mr. Stones made a few calls, and by late afternoon, there was a team of paleontologists examining the ammonite. "What an amazing discovery, Poppy," they said. "We're going to remove it carefully and study it." Poppy! She heard her parents' voices as they approached. Don't bother those people, please. It's time to go. Look what I found, she told them. Very nice, dear, said her mom, barely glancing at the ammonite. That's quite a big rock. Now come and pack your bag. Bye, Mr. Stones, said Poppy sadly. See you next summer, said Mr. Stones. I may have a surprise for you by then. The following summer, when Poppy and her parents arrived in Quiet Sands, one of the first things they saw was a huge poster for a special exhibition. The star attraction was Poppy's Ammonite.
So in this part, basically what it said is that when with Mr. Stones and Poppy arrived to the place again to see the ammonite, that was the thing that she has discovered. It was an ammonite. He was very surprised because it said there was a really rare ammonite, all right, that it has 150 million years old when dinosaurs were walking on the land. Sea creatures like ammonites were swimming in the oceans there. So he makes some calls to another paleontologist, and they see this ammonite very interesting because it was really rare. So Poppy's parents didn't know that she was doing a special discovery. And when she's trying to say, honestly, in my way, in my opinion, I didn't like that much this part because she did a great I'm gonna say she did a great discovery in the story, right? This is about the story. She make a great discovery, and their parents didn't take that attention that it needed. She, when the parents needs to how can I say this? Parent needs to encourage their kids for their dream, for their passions. So I can see in this part, and actually in most of the story, that the parents of Poppy, uh, they don't care about what she's doing. They care only about themselves. I think that they are very selfish. Selfish significa egoísta. I mean, it's not the part. This is not talking about the story. It's my opinion about this part. Okay, the fact is that returning to the story, the puppies found this ammonite. The paleontologists were very interesting. She wants to show her parents her discovery, but their parents were interested in their life. Okay, in other words, in their lives. She was very sad because she wants to be there. She wants to hear what the paleontologists have to say. But as long as she's a girl, she needs to obey their parents. Okay, so they say, hey, come on, little girl, let's go back. And she didn't want to go, but she has to obey. But the next year, when they went again to Quiet Sands, the place, she looks that there was an exhibition. Exhibition means an exhibition, and it was about ammonite, and it's Poppy's ammonite, her discovery. That was the surprise that Mr. Stone, this guy, gave it to her. So right now on page number 84, we're going to work on this part, and it says, read the story again. Answer the question. So first one, is Quiet Sands a big town? How do you know? Well, actually, it's not a big town, right? It's not a big town. Why? Because that place only has 2 stars. That's what we know it. And we know it because it only has two shops, the ice cream and the other one that was about the fossil shops, right? That's how we know it. Number two, what are Poppy's favorite fossils and stones? What are Poppy's favorite fossil stones? Well, she likes the amber. Why she likes the amber? Because it has a little creatures inside these stones, right? She likes amber ones with tiny craters inside them. That's what it is. Number three, does Mr. Stone think that the only paleontologist can find a fossil? What do you think, guys? Only the paleontologist can find fossil? No, he thinks that anyone can find a fossil. Okay. And what would happen with number four, number five, and number six? You have to do it by yourself, okay? What do ammonites have in common with dinosaurs? What have in common with dinosaurs? Well, the ammonites live in the same period as dinosaurs. While the dinosaurs were walking were walking in the ground, they were swimming, all right, in the ocean, but they are very close. Number five, what does Poppy's mom think of fossils? Well, Poppy's mom think that it was just it has nothing interesting, right? That actually, she think that it's a lump of tree. A lump of tree that's going to be just seated on a shelf and get dusty. That's what you think. She was not interested about fossils. Number six, what do you think Poppy was happy when she returned the following summer? Why? Why she was happy? Remember, it is in the last part, in the last paragraph on page number 83, this answer. All right, so let's going to figure out the second part. And it says, choose a word from the story that matches each definition. So to find the definition of this one, you have to look back of the book. And back of the book, you're going to find the vocabulary, all right? We're going to find the vocabulary. So in the first one, it says, a general term for an animal. What is that one? A general term for an animal. General term means like a synonym, okay? Un sinónimo for an animal. How can we say an animal? What is another way to say an animal? Based on this keywords, I'm gonna say this: blurt, creator, etch, paleontologist, resin, spike. For this one, another term for an animal is creator. Creator. Number two, a sticky liquid from the inside of the tree. What do you think it is? Actually, it's a resin. Resin. Right? Resin is a sticky liquid from the inside of the trees. Number three, as scientists study fossils of prehistoric plants and animals, what is that? A blurt, a creature, an age, paleontologist, resin, or spike? It's a paleontologist. Paleontologist. Sorry. fix it that well. Next one. This part, you're going to do it by yourself, okay? To say something suddenly without thinking. What is that? Say something suddenly. Suddenly significa de repente, without, sin thinking, pensar. Number 5, an object that is sharp and pointed. Un objeto que es filoso y puntiagudo. What it could be, the thin side or outside limit of something. The thin side or outside limit of something. All right, now that we know this, we're going to answer this one. This part you are going to do it on your notebook, okay? Esta parte la van a hacer en su cuaderno y me van a enviar por favor la foto de que hicieron esto, ¿de acuerdo? Pónganle, ya sabe, el título, escriban este comentario de aquí, ¿verdad? Que es la instrucción, luego escriben la pregunta, escriben la respuesta, escriben la pregunta, la respuesta, la pregunta, la respuesta. ¿De acuerdo? Number 1 says, what do Poppy's parents like to do at quiet times? What does Poppy like to do? So, what does Poppy's parents like to do? They like to take the sun on the beach. On the beach. And Poppy likes to visit the fossil shop. Okay, it's going to be the answer for number 1. For number 1, this one. What about number 2? It says, what does Poppy learn from talking with Mr. Stone and looking at the fossils in the shop? ¿Qué es lo que aprendió Poppy cuando está hablando con el señor Stones y mirando los fósiles en la tienda? You have to answer this question, okay? Number 3, how does this information help her find the ammonite? ¿Cómo la información que le dio el señor Stones le ayudó a encontrar ese ammonite a ella? That's what you have to do on this part, okay? Now we're going on page number 85. What we're going to look over there? So it says using visuals. Visuals are like images, pictures, all right? It says, look at the diagrams or pictures carefully. While you are listening, they can help you understand what you heard, especially when there is a new or technical vocabulary, okay? So what it's saying is that using pictures, it may help you to understand some lesson, all right? So right now we're going to listen and circle what is the talk about. We have in here 3 themes. The first theme, why dinosaurs are extinct. Number 2, how fossils are formed. Number 3, what dinosaurs look like. So first, we're going to listen to this one and listen carefully so we can choose which one is the correct one.
Track 41.
Welcome to the Fossil Roadshow. I'm Doc Rock, and I'm a paleontologist. Today, we're talking about how fossils are formed. Earlier this year, we were working in a desert when we found an enormous dinosaur skeleton. How did it get there? Well, I'll tell you. We usually find fossils in a kind of rock called sedimentary rock. Limestone is one example. Sedimentary rock forms when sediment settles at the bottom of a lake or the ocean. Over millions of years, many layers of sediment are pressed down by the weight of the water and turn into rock. When a plant or animal dies, it sinks to the bottom too. It gets buried in the sediment. Eventually, its skeleton becomes a fossil.
So, what is the talk about? What is this track talking about? Exactly. How fossils are formed. This is what is this track is talking about. All right. Now, what are we going to do? Listen again and check the rock where you might find a fossil. Granite, limestone, or marble. So we're going to listen again, and then we're going to mark a check with the one that we think that is, not the one that we think, it's the one that it is, right? Hold on.
Welcome to the Fossil Roadshow. I'm Doc Rock, and I'm a paleontologist. Today, we're talking about how fossils are formed. Earlier this year, we were working in a desert when we found an enormous dinosaur skeleton. How did it get there? Well, I'll tell you. We usually find fossils in a kind of rock called sedimentary rock. Limestone is one example. Sedimentary rock forms when sediment settles at the bottom of a lake or the ocean. Over millions of years, many layers of sediment are pressed down by the weight of the water and turn into rock. When a plant or animal dies, it sinks to the bottom too. It gets buried in the sediment. Eventually, its skeleton becomes a fossil.
Okay, so right now we know that the fossils, you can find it in the type of rock that names the limestone. This one, all right? That's what you have to do in this part. Now we're going to listen and number the picture in order. Listen with the track number 42 in this part, okay? Let's going to listen.
Track 42.
So let's imagine the story of the dinosaur fossil we found in the rock. Millions of years ago, this dinosaur was walking along by a river when it died. Its body sank to the bottom of the river. Over time, layers of sediment built up around the dinosaur's body. The minerals in the sediment replaced the calcium in the dinosaur's bones and teeth. The skeleton became a petrified fossil. But how did this dinosaur's bones get from the bottom of the lake to the top of the rock? Earth's surface is made up of giant pieces called plates. When those plates move and push together, they can lift rock upward. The rock moved up, but the dinosaur fossil was still inside. You couldn't see it. So how can we see it today? A process called erosion. Water and wind wore away the layers of rock over millions of years, uncovering our fossil.
Like this. So now that we have done on page number 85, please send me those pictures about the work that you did, okay? And that's going to be all language.